Greetings everyone, welcome to this new video. Here we have a guide on the Winter Orb Trickster. It's been a pretty insane character honestly, because you can see on PoE Ninja, you can actually see what characters people are playing and how much percentage everything is and who is doing the most DPS. And if you sort everything by Winter Orb and DPS, you can see that Trickster is way ahead of everyone else. And in this specific build that someone came up with, I cannot credit anyone specific because I don't know who started the trend, but it's with a new Eternity Shroud unique, which is just insane because you get so much chaos damage. So it's elemental damage and extra chaos damage. You just scale the shit out of that. And I just wanted to try out, and I want to put it out there. This is not a beginner's build. This is something you try in the really super end game if you have a lot of currency to throw around, because my build right now is probably cost me over 100 exalted. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. For our playstyle, it's very simple. Just wind up those Winter Orb stacks and go to town, because we don't need all these extra skills. We don't need Flask, we don't need the Withering Totem, Focus, and all those other skills I have here, because we're killing everything so fast anyway. But if you want to kill something in 1 second instead of 2 seconds, then we're still gonna go through it. So for bosses, I would put down Withering Totem because it gives us extra damage dealt with Chaos, and it stacks up to 15 times very fast. It's almost instant, those stacks with multiple totems, so that's very good. We have Focus, which is gonna activate my Ring Craft, which is gonna shock nearby enemies. We have Valve Righteous Fire, which is very good also. It increases our spell damage. And we have Flame Dash, which is gonna activate our Onslaught for us. All this is just so we can run as fast, we can shoot as fast. So honestly, I would focus more on the run speed, because the faster you can run through the map, and Winter Orb will just take care of all the mobs for you while you're running at full speed. So I will just focus on the Flame Dash, the Phase Run, and the Quicksilver Flask. If I wanted more damage, I could put that in, but honestly, do we really need that when Uber Elder and Shaper and all of those is dying or facing instantly? We don't. For gearing, it's very simple. We are gonna go with the first item here, is the Eternity Shroud, which we are building around. All the other items are just a product of this simple item. Got introduced in 3.6 and it's probably gonna be nerfed in next league. I would think so, because this item is used in so many insane, like broken builds right now. And it's because it, as you can see, it has good stats all over. It's just that there's a few things here. So let's just start from the top. Glimpse of Eternity when hit. That is basically a little bit of a bubble area where everyone gets like temporal shame kind of a thing, where everyone gets slowed in that bubble. So it's pretty good, but it has reasonable ES, it has reasonable maximum life, and especially for Trickster, this one, because we take that evasion rating and we're converting it to ES, so that 181 ES that is already on there gets much more ES when we are due. But you can look at my ascendancies for that. So, but what makes this an insane chess piece is the gain 5% elemental damage, extra chaos damage per shaper item. So if I have all the shaper item, we can count here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and of course 10 in the middle. That means we have 50 extra elemental damage as extra chaos damage. Yep, 50 right there. But it does not stop there, of course not, because we have hits ignore enemy monster chaos resistant for all equipped items. So there's two ways of building this. Some people use the Devouring Diadem, which means that we're not gonna use that one, but I went for a full Shaper. That means I get to use that last mod on that item, which is very good. So for other items, I would just say that we can start with a helmet here. You want Winter Orb stacks, of course. That is the +2. We want that at but these are super expensive. You can fossil craft these, so it's like the fractured fossil, I believe it is. You can make a service. It's like a mirroring service, so it's gonna cost you about 6.5 exalted to use the service and get a helmet like mine here. And I suggest that you obviously do it, or you can use this one for the other one. And if you use this helmet, the Devouring Diadem, then you can of course use another aura because we get less mana reserved. And we're gonna use Herald of Ice then as our, what is it, 5th mana reservation. And otherwise it has some good stats and stuff like that. I just wanted to try it with a full Shaper gear. Obviously it's not needed to do the +2 maximum stages, but I had the option, so I went for it. For the weapons, which is extremely powerful here, of course we gain 20% elemental damage, so we're gonna multi-mod the shit out of these two scepters. They're identical, so I only need to show one. And we want crit, crit, and multi-crit, multi-crit. We want as much of that as possible. And we want as much as possible cold damage to spells, because we want to convert it in the end. So this is double dipping kind of thing, because the more cold damage we have, the more we're going to convert into fire, and then the more we're going to convert both cold and fire into chaos. Yeah, this is why this build is so ludicrous, because you convert in both phases, not only in one. So for our amulet, because this is already Shaper when we get it, so I highly recommend to go with this one. And also our stacks is not up so long, so if I stand in my hideout like now, you can see that it's only for 5 seconds, but if this hits, it's for a much longer duration. I don't know, about, is 8 seconds maybe, 8, 9, I've not counted myself. And yeah, it gives some good life, some good damage and stuff like that, and it gives us free temporal chain, which is also good because it slows down enemies around us and bosses and so on. And this one, of course, Pyre, because it's converting our cold damage to convert to fire, together with our cold to fire support, which is in our chest piece. So that means we have 90% of our cold damage converted into fire. That means we can double dip all the way. So that means we are taking the cold damage, converting it into chaos damage through our Eternity Shroud and our scepters and all the other stats we have on our gear. And then we do the same to the fire, also converting. So that's what means by double dipping. You're taking it from one source and the other one and converting it into the same. So this one is extremely expensive. You might be wondering, well, I've gotten tons of these pyro rings. Yes, but this one is Shaper, so that means you need to get the sapphire ring, which is shaped, which is not expensive, but then you need to chance it. You need to put chance orb to it, so chance scouring all the way until you get this one in Shaper format, and that's gonna cost you a lot. So these goes for about, I don't know, 21, 22 exalted right now. So if you want to play this build and don't have that currency, I would suggest you go with the Devouring Diadem and just a normal one, and it's still gonna do incredible damage. Trust me, it's barely any difference. Well, there is a difference, that's why I have it, but it's a slight difference. So then I went for an opal ring. I saw some people doing it that way. I saw MBX do it, so I just figured, and I put it into Path of Building, and it showed me that it was a damage increase. I went with it. I also went with shock nearby enemies for 4 seconds when focused. That means we have extra damage, so every time I hit my focus button, it's gonna activate directly my focus, and it's gonna just completely shock everyone and bosses and stuff like that. We don't need it, of course, but it's extra damage. It's always fun. For our gloves, obviously you want the fingerless silk gloves, but these are super expensive again. And you want them at high item level. I don't know, what is it now? 83 at least, because we want to get the mod in Soccer games are supportable level 20 projectile slower projectiles, because not because of the slower projectile, because of the mod it gives us. It's increased projectile damage, so we don't care about the mod itself, we care about the mod that comes with it. So only the increased projectile damage is important. Then we just multi-mod it all the way down and just get as much life and whatever resistance you need and some elemental damage. You can check out my stats, and my PoE link is also gonna be in the description. Here we just went with a maximum amount of, this is probably my shittiest piece, but what we're looking for is increased spell damage during any Flask effect, and then as much life and just any resist we can come by, and some extra energy shield, and just fill out some maybe some also stats that we're missing. And I used my boots as filling out the maximum amount of resistance I can, because we are very starving on resistances. And I also went with an enchant for extra run speed, which is very nice. I mean, 10% is always 10%, so we can run faster. But these, ultimately, you want to have the eye level, is it 36? Oh no, eye level 86, I mean. And you want 35 increased movement speed on these, and then just multi-mod them. But I couldn't be bothered. So these ultimately are our gear, and you want as many of them as Shaper. And if you want the ultimate mod, which is hits ignore enemy monster chaos resistant, then all of them needs to be in Shaper format. And obviously, without looking at the gear itself, with the stats and everything, it's also beautiful. Look at this, you can see them shine through there. Beautiful. So for our flask, we have our life flask of staunching, because we want to be bleed immune, because we're running so fast, we don't want to bleed out. So we also want some of it to be instant in case we take some damage, so we can instantly get something back, but we don't want it to be instant enough so we can also get this form in like complete instant. All of it is taken instantly. We don't want that, because we want that bleed immunity to be up while we have damage taken. Also, we want Zero Promise, super cheap, super good, because we are gain 15% elemental damage, extra chaos damage, and also gain some chaos resistance and chaos damage leech, because this is our leech source, and because we have so much elemental damage this can convert it. This flask is just so good, do not replace this one. And then we have the diamond flask, and I used the curse immunity one with extra charges, because many of the mods on maps are curses, so we don't get affected by temporal chains. But temporal chains can be a good thing though on maps, because our stacks on Winter Orb also get affected by it, so you choose yourself on those. But there's so many out there, Enfeeble and Elemental Weakness, and all those mods get affected by this. So this completely erases all those map mods, so they're no problem. And of course the new Bottle of Faith one. This is completely new for 3.6, and it's super expensive. I think it's like 4 exalted or something like that. And it's because it create consecrated on use, increased damage, increased rate. I mean this one, and also increased ground created, consecrated ground created flask is triple radius. That means it's gonna cover basically the whole screen, and every mob that stands on it takes extra damage because I have the Yule for it, and it also takes do more critical strike to those, and you also gain more life regen. I mean, it's an incredible flask for this build. And also critical chance against enemies on consecrated effect, like I said, 1.72, it goes all the way up to 2. And consecrated ground created during effect applies 10% increased damage taken. And I also have the jewel for this, which is my salutary, I believe, jewel, and I have it on my build. You can check it on my jewel section, but it's also synergized very well with this bottle of faith. Then we have our trusted Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline. We want the one with extra duration, and we want the one with extra movement speed during Flask effect. Really good flask. I know some people are changing this, but I honestly think it's just to pad their damage for PoE Ninja. Otherwise, if you don't feel like going with a curse immunity, we could also go with a freeze immunity here. I honestly don't need that because I wind up my stacks for every box I click. So even if I get frozen, I still kill all the enemies. You can also go for Dying Sun. This does not show up on PoB, by the way, so it will not show up as extra damage, but it's quite a lot because of the 2 extra projectiles. And we also have our Basalt Flask if you want some extra, because physical damage is a problem with this build, obviously. So we might want to have this for extra, and you would replace all of these basically with our Diamond Flask. Diamond Flask of course gives extra critical, but we have so much critical right now and we have so much damage, so I would exchange this one, or maybe Quicksilver Flask if I didn't really care. So those were the flasks. For our jewels, we have some special jewels and some normal jewels here. Let's start with the normal ones and then we go over to the special ones. So I normally have hypnotic jewels for all my Winter Orb builds because they're very good, because you can get flat cold damage to these. So you can get both flat cold damage to spells and flat cold damage to dual wielding. So because we're dual wielding. So that's very good. We can also get maximum energy shield because we are using both energy shield and our life. So that's very good, and we can also fill up on resistances, stats, and so on if we want to. So all these are basically the same. We have damage per 2% elemental damage if you haven't killed recently, which helps on bosses. Obviously we don't need it, but it's still good. And the ultimate stat you want to look for is global critical strike multiplier. You want to get that together with a flat cold. So if you can get one with life and global critical multiplier and cold, flat cold, that is really good. But those are super expensive and super rare, and I could not even find one right now. So, and for normal jewels, and not abyss jewels that is, we want the increased cold damage, we want maximum life, is very good. So if you as high as possible, if you can get 7%, that would be really good. We can get area damage, projectile damage, we can get our resistances here, and of course, as you can see, I have my stats on here also. And we can get a bunch of different critical strike multiplier. So we can get critical strike to multiplier to cold skills, fire skills, all those, but we want the one for cold skills, of course, because Winter Orb is a cold skill ultimately. And we want the global critical multiplier. There's also critical strike, which is not that important for us, but it's still good in there. So just go through the whole list and of in PoE affixes, which I have in the description, and see which ones is applicable here, because there's too many to go through. I would go through, put all of these into a search engine and then just have live search it, and it will pop up automatically when something is good for you. For my Watcher's Eye, I have the one which double salutary, which gives me enemies to take 9% increased damage if they're standing on consecrated ground, which is all the time because of our flasks, and because our salutary makes consecrated ground under the enemy's feet. So and it does this all the time. So this is going to be up pretty much 100% of the time. And critical strikes penetrates 10% of elemental resistance while affected by strategy, which is super good. These stats do not be counted in PoE, so I don't know, it cannot count them at least. So this jewel is ultimately useless in Path of Building, but in reality this is very strong jewel. There's other ones, just look which auras you have or which different skills you have and pick one that is good for you. Ultimately you might want to go for another one of these or something like that. And for our most valued one, Unnatural Instinct. This one we're gonna put down at, this one is the only one we want to put in a specific position, is down by the Scion area. Look at my PoB link if you don't know where the Scion area is. We want to put it there because every unallocated small passive skill in radius, it activates those. So if you don't have clicked them on the skill tree, it takes all of those in the small radius. That means we get so much from that area. We get life, we get dex, which we are sorely needing in this build. We get critical multiplier, which is the biggest reason why we're getting this. It's so much critical multiplier, and a bunch of other stats and things. So this one is quite expensive, but it's well worth it if you can get it. For our skill gems, we're gonna start with our Winter Orb. You want as much quality of all of these skill gems. Just look up on the PoE Database which one actually give a benefit if they're qualified. So if they don't give any good benefits, then just skip that. But level 21 Winter Orb and quality 20 is really important here for maximum damage, especially the level. Extra levels to Winter Orb is insane damage boost, I'm telling you. So the other ones we're going for is Elemental Focus with greater multiple projectiles, concentrated effect. All of these are standard for all of these. We have Infused Channeling, also important that you have maximum here, because that means we need to channel it less to get the infused channeling, which gives us extra, what was it, extra more damage and stuff like that. And the best one, which is essential for this build, is cold to fire support. That means we're converting 50% of our cold damage to fire, and together with our pyro ring, that is 90%. So this is why this is so essential, because we're converting our cold damage, 90% that converted to fire. All that cold damage is calculated for our chaos damage from our Eternity Shroud and other elemental damage and extra chaos damage. All that is calculated. So it calculates all that cold damage as it was not already converted. It takes all that and whatever we have, let's say we have 100% elemental damage, extra chaos damage, it takes that and converts it to chaos damage. And then it does the same for that fire damage we just converted. 90% of that cold damage get converted to fire, remember? That means we take that and we do it all over again. So if we could convert it 3 times, we could essentially do the same damage 3 times. But this is why we call double dipping, because we do it twice. And those are the links that you want. I would replace Elemental Focus for increased duration if you want a smoother mapping. But then you need to recolor it. It should not be very hard because it's easy to color this one. For our helmet, I chose to go with Righteous Fire and Summon Lightning Golem together with our increased Immortal Call and Cost Wind Damage Taken. So Cost Wind Damage Taken is not gonna activate Righteous Fire because Righteous Fire is just too high level. Make sure you do not too low, because then you're gonna activate Righteous Fire, not Val Righteous Fire, and then you're gonna be in deep trouble, because then you're gonna degen too fast to keep it up. So please make sure that Righteous Fire or Val Righteous Fire is higher level than you're here. It's just some extra damage because Lightning Golem is just so hard to keep up all the time. For our Scepter we have Spell Totem. multiple totem support and wither, because we're gonna put it out and it's gonna be multiple totems and it's gonna put 15 stacks of wither on our targets, and it's just gonna go so fast, and it's a really good setup for bossing. I would say this is a must. Then we have Arcane Surge, Blasphemy Support, and Temporal Chain. I have no idea what Arcane Surge is doing here. If someone can tell me in the description, because I think it's only for padding the DPS from the top players on PoE Ninja. I just had it exactly like they had it, and yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. I've never seen Arcane Surge get, and if I activate Temporal Chain, it does not matter because it takes no mana because of our amulet. So I don't know what it's doing there, but I had an extra link. So for our gloves, I have Herald of Ash, Hatred, Zealotry, and of course Enlighten level 4. It might be enough with level 3. I have not tested it, but it might be enough. If you have the Devouring Diadem, then you would go with all these links, of course, in the helmet, because the Socratic Gems have 20% reduced mana reservation, so that is an obvious one. And we have for our feet, we have our Phase Run and increased duration, because Phase Run get more duration then, and Flame Dash don't get really affected by that, so we don't care. And Onslaught, so every time we use our Flame Dash and go through enemies, we have a chance to proc our Onslaught here, which is very good. All these links is what most people are using for this build. I made some of my own adjustments to it, and this is what I came up with. For our passive tree, we are gonna go for some elemental damage and some energy shield here in the beginning. We just want to go down and take some stats for ourselves. We also want to go for movement speed, dex. We're very starving on that, so it's very good nodes to have. If you have some extra points, you want to go over here and take some extra life and some jewel socket. Jewel sockets are very good for us if you can afford the jewels for it. Then of course we want as much critical strike and critical strike multi and some extra life there. And we want to have some of these because I'm not using the helmet, the Devouring Diadem. Then we need our Eldritch Battery, and Eldritch Battery is super good here because what it basically does is take our energy shield and it goes to our mana. So when we use our skills, we can use energy shield as our mana instead. Very good, because then we don't really need to worry about mana anymore. And we can use up all our mana as reservation on stuff. And on top of that, when it combines with Mind Over Matter, what it does is when we get hit, it takes energy shield. So we're not losing all of that energy shield for mana. We also are using it as an extra life pool. So this is used, so you want a good balance between these two stats. So I go for approximately 30% of our life want to be energy shield, approximate, because yeah, that makes sense to me. Then we want some extra dual nodes, and of course we want to go all the way down here so we can put in Natural Instinct. We want to go up here, Eldritch Battery, if we don't have the diadem, and some extra Cold and Fire here, some crit multi. Then of course we want to take the critical spells here and multi, life, and then it's just generic ones. When I go up here, of course Mind Over Matter, crit multi, again life. And of course these are super important. Here's the next cluster we really need to reach, because otherwise you're not going to be able to play around with all those auras and mana reservation that we have. Without these and the Enlighten, we cannot do it. So please take those, and some extra elemental damage, some resistance and stuff like that. So this is our passive tree. For our Ascendancies, I would suggest that you go with Swift Killer first. That's what I did, because when we're channeling we get extra frenzy charges, which makes us run faster of course, and some extra cost speed I believe, and power charges, which is because we have our crit build, we get some extra critical strike and stuff like that. So, and we get extra damage per frenzy and power charge. So that's going to be 6 of those up. So it's very strong for leveling I believe. Then I went for Ghost Dancer, and Ghost Dancer and Escape Artist are super good because our Ghost Shrouds is going to give us extra, every time we lose a Ghost Shroud, we recover energy shield equal to 5%, which is going to gain us our mana also, because our energy shield is our mana in this case because of Eldritch Battery. And it's gonna give us chance to evade and reduce damage taken per Ghost Shroud, which is gonna be all the time. Increase movement speed while you have energy shield, which is gonna be all the time. And of course Escape Artist, which is gonna convert all that juicy evasion on our chest into energy shield. So +1 to maximum energy shield per 6 evasion, because we have over 1,000 there. That's gonna be a lot going in there, almost 200 extra energy shield right there. And all that evasion rating on our helmet is going to be to maximum +5 evasion rating per 1 maximum energy shield per helmet. Obviously I went for a lower amount of energy shield there, but you can do it however you want. Increased cost speed and Ghost Shroud, which is all the time. Cannot be stunned while you have Ghost Shroud, which is very good because stunning is really annoying for channeling skills. Chance to dodge hits and if you have energy shield, which is all the time. So, and for the final one is a non-chaos damage with hits as extra chaos damage. And this is a super good damage boost. So these are our Ascendancy. For our Pantheons, I would suggest that you go with Soul of Lanaris, of course, fully upgraded. I was getting lazy here towards the end, because apparently they don't carry over with another character. So it gives us extra movement speed, because we're moving through enemies so fast, so we're basically going to have that 8% all the time. And additional physical reduction, because we have, that is probably our Achilles heel with this build. And all those other upgrades are super important for our mapping prowess. And I like to have Solar Shakiri, because immune to poison and some extra chaos, reduced chaos damage taken. For our Uber Elder I would go for, where is it? It's this one. Reduced cold damage taken and chance to reflect enemy shield and freezes, of course, for our. And maybe I would go for some probably Soul of Solaris for Uber Elder also. Fully upgraded of course. For our Bandits I killed them all, which gives us 2 extra skill points, because I think I can use those 2 skill points better than I would use the Lyra one, which would be my second choice here. A Lyra gives crit multi and some resistances, because we're starving on resistances. It might be a good choice. So if you want to go the easy route, then go for the Lyra one. If you want a little bit more trust in yourself, then go with 2 skill points. So that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching this far into the video, and I applaud you for that. It's a very long video, I know that, but I probably missed 100 different things, even though this one is over 30 minutes long. And I will answer all your questions that I can in the comments below, and also I want to hear your input. So if you've looked through this video this far, you're probably very dedicated, and I would ask one question from you guys, because I've been trying out some new editing skills and I just want your opinion on how they are in this video. So just take a look at my intro area, my outro, and my transitions and my audio and everything, and just tell me what you think. So without further ado, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day, and please remember to subscribe for more content like this. Goodbye.